Look at this building behind me. This place was my home for 3 academic years. Some people might ask me what my biggest takeaway from hall is. And spoiler alert, it's not actually friends. So I recently browsed the NUS subreddit and I've been coming across a lot of posts regarding hall stay in NUS. And I also made a thread of my own on the NUS subreddit and I answered some questions that some of y'all might have regarding hall life. I know the typical stereotypes like Shears Hall and Cambridge Hall being a bit more rabak, ratchet, as if these are halls where students drink every single night and are constantly hooking up with one another. I mean, if there was a hall like that, like, sign me up, right? But like, where was this hall when I was staying in Shears for 3 years? So in this video today, I'm just gonna dispel some of these things that you might know based on hearsay, but this is just my personal point of view. And I'll also impart some unsolicited advice for anyone that's a bit nervous about staying in hall, in NUS, or any accommodation for that matter, even if you're from residential college or staying in hall in NTU. And as always, feel free to ask me some questions in the comments down below, and I'll try my best to answer them. So I'm just going to move on to some of my thoughts about halls in NUS. Number one, is hall rabak or ratchet? In my humble opinion, hall is rabak and ratchet, whatever you call it, depending on who you're around with. And the hall might not be such a determining factor as much as you think, although it could be a factor due to the demographic of students. So we all have heard that Shears Hall and Cambridge Hall are the most ratchet, the most rabak. People are always drinking, there are hookup WhatsApp groups. I even got a question as to whether people took drugs in these halls. But like I said, your hall experience is really determined by yourself and who you choose to mix around with. I can't deny that certain groups of students might be more inclined to do some of these more ratchet activities, and of course I've also heard about the hookup WhatsApp groups, but personally I've never actually been a part of any of these groups. I can't categorically deny that these groups exist, but I can't exactly confirm them either because I'm not part of those groups that have these types of things. Some of these students might be more inclined to do these activities more regularly, but there are also a lot of students that do not do any of these as well. In fact, I would say the majority of students wouldn't do these regularly. The majority of students aren't clubbing 3 days a week or constantly walking into someone's room to hook up on a daily basis, and I am pretty certain of that, unless I am in the minority. And in my opinion, the rabakness and the ratchetness, it's not to the extent that a lot of freshmen might think, at least based on the hearsay. If you know you want to have that type of lifestyle, then, go ahead and find people that adopt a similar lifestyle to you. And if you don't want to partake in these activities because you think it's a bit too much, then just don't. The beauty of college is that you can do whatever the hell you want. So you have to determine what's important to you based on your own values and what you feel you want to do. I think students in this generation are a lot more understanding as compared to the past when it comes to peer pressure, boundaries, and just pushing you to do things that you're not comfortable with. I don't know about students in other universities, but in NUS, anyone that stays in the accommodation on campus has to go through this consent module. So yeah, there's a lot more education around these things. Don't worry too much, freshies. King Edward Hall feels a lot like an NTU hall. You've got so many flights of stairs just to get to your room, and it's in the middle of nowhere as well. Nestled right next to the vegetation, King Edward Hall is an NTU hall in disguise. Second point, the point system in NUS halls sucks ass, but it is necessary. This point system supposedly encourages students to contribute back to the hall by picking up roles in clubs and societies. And Singaporeans being Singaporeans, we tend to get a bit competitive. And if you want to stay in hall in the following year, you would have to optimize the points you get by picking up interest groups that supposedly give you more points. So essentially, you have to balance what you're actually interested in and what actually gives you points to stay in the following year. And I really despise this system. One of the supposed best parts about hall life is the fact that you can join so many interest groups and pick up new hobbies. But at the same time, I find that dividing your effort into so many responsibilities and new hobbies, it's really hard for you to hone yourself in any particular craft. It's touching on the concept of essentialism. If you split your time and energy into so many things at one point of time, none of them would really go far. And it's particularly frustrating for ICs. I was an IC in 3 of my 4 years in the media team, and this is particularly frustrating for me because your members are constantly having their attention and effort split into so many responsibilities. And there's a good chance that you as an IC would have to pick up the slack and do quite a bit of extra work. That is, unless you're my content strategy team in the last academic year. I love you guys. Thank you for doing so much work. I guess you can say that in this system, it's good at giving you some exposure into what might become your hobby in the future. But you really won't get good until you put in some quality time into honing that particular craft. But I digress. What I've learned is that this system is necessary. There needs to be some measure of your value to the hall, because ultimately demand for accommodation is way more than the supply. So the way that they would measure this is through the rules that you've picked up. I don't like it, but there's a reason it works. And for any students that are frustrated that they didn't get enough points and cannot stay in the future, and they just throw all their rage at the JCRC members, do understand that it's also very, very hard for them to split the points as well. And it literally takes them full days, multiple full days, to actually come up with the system that could potentially satisfy the majority of people. You can be angry about the number of points you get, but understand that it's a lot of effort on their part as well. Let's all try to be a bit more understanding to one another, yeah? Did I just read that flag correctly? Virginity rocks. This is my swamp now. My fellow freshies, sex is evil. No sex until marriage. Yes, stay celibate. Be a virgin. By the way, just a heads up, there's also a new hall called PGPH. Behind me is PGPR, Prince George's Park Residences, as well as PGPH, Prince George's Park Hall. It's a new hall. The PGPH rooms are the best hall rooms you can get in NUS right now. But yeah, just a fun fact for you guys, but they're kind of new, so no one really wants to go into PGPH as compared to the other halls. At least at the moment lah, because they're so new. So yeah, PGPH is an option as well. Next point, hall life is a lot more than just the hall experience. This actually applies to just living on campus in general. Confession time, I actually live pretty near to NUS. And I stayed in year 4, even though I did not have any lessons at all. Yes, I stole a spot from a suffering freshman staying in Punggol or Pasir Ris. A poor freshie that has to make the pilgrimage to reach the holy sanctity of education, that is NUS, to attend that 2-hour computing lecture that no one listens to because the lecturer's accent is a bit too strong. I'm the guy that stole that spot from this poor freshie. So I actually covered this point in the Reddit thread I made. True power is waking up 10 minutes before a lesson and still making it in time for said lesson. And that is the true power of staying on campus. The vicinity to the university campus is key here. Unless you literally stay next to NUS, you would still have to take public transport to get here at the very least. It's really so easy if you're, let's say, a business student, and all you need to do to get to class is just wake up and walk out of the hall. And building is right there. And likewise, having a place to rest at and chill at while waiting in between lessons is a lot more valuable than you might think. Chilling around in a room that you can call yours while waiting in between your 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. class. Have your own personal space without having to compete with other students for study spots. There are also some tangible takeaways from staying on campus. Staying in hall, at least to me, teaches you how to stay independently from your parental home. You know, random things like doing laundry, basic housekeeping, buying groceries if you want to cook. You'll learn how to take care of yourself a little bit more if you haven't done so already. This next bit is my biggest takeaway from hall. Staying on campus, it taught me the idea about having my own space. Not just a physical space, but a real feel of personal space. Even though I'm really just renting the place for a few months, you get a real feel that, yes, this room, this is my domain, and I can do whatever the hell I want with it. And this is not a feeling I can say that I have at my family home. I can live with whatever lifestyle I want in my space in hall, but that's not something I can do at my family home because there are different people with different lifestyles that share the same space. This idea is my biggest takeaway from staying in campus and staying in hall. And now we're at the midway point of the video. If you're enjoying the content so far and want to see more college content, a sub to the channel would be spectacular. Oh, and one last thing I don't really like about halls in NUS. For some reason, it seems like they take some form of sadistic pleasure in intentionally desecrating the beauty of the English language. Like, look at this bullshit. Look at Kenridge Hall. They'll be like, join the crew. Spelling crew with a K and R. Look at this, look at this. There'll be like a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas with a KR. It's like Christmas. And like my favorite one of all. Camp Croc. This is not even as bad as Raffles. Just check out the YouTube channel. Raffles Hall Rockfest 2022. Rock. But my favorite one of all were humans, friendships, and love. Friendships and love. So many other things to do, but they choose to smash R and H in the middle of a word that does not even have R and H inside of it. Oh, but Shears Hall though, Shears is totally fine. Shears is superior. Sorry Shears, but I'm gonna call you guys out as well. I can't defend you anymore. Come on, man. Come on. I know it's just part of the marketing and branding for halls in NUS, but come on, Shears. Team Rockshit. Team Rockshit. Are you kidding me? So many people DM'd me thinking it said Team Rockshit. Team Rockshit. And Raffles Hall, the hall that committed the almighty sin of putting R and H in between LOVE. Or love. I don't know why I bothered visiting all the halls just for B-roll. I am insanely tired right now. But yes, Raffles Hall, please don't commit such a sin ever again. I guess I'll end it off with some tips about surviving in hall, at least from my perspective. First tip would be, don't be FOMO. If you don't want to take part in something, just don't. Like I mentioned before, the beauty of college is that you can do whatever the hell you want. If you want to study more and spend less time on hall activities, go ahead. If you're scared that people might ostracize you for not taking part in hall activities, I think that says a lot more about them than you. As long as you're a respectable person and friend to others, and you're not disruptive in the hall community, no one inherently cares about what you do as much as you think they do. There's this thing called the spotlight effect, and I covered this in one of my earlier videos where I gave advice to students, so you can check that out over here. Second tip is that you don't have to be everyone's friend. I think it's really easy to look at other people and see them having hot pot with 5 different groups, drinking sessions, clubbing sessions, and then some of your friends are part of all these groups. Their orientation group, their CCA group, their block, their level, the rec group, all these different friend groups. You might feel a little bit envious at times of your hall friends that are constantly being surrounded by people. But I'm going to put it out there that realistically, the majority of these people, you're not going to be talking to them after you leave hall. It's very okay just to have a tight group of close friends. And of course, having a wider pool of friends would help you in identifying the bunch that truly matter. But like I said, quality over quantity. Be friends with the ones that respect you, the ones that respect your time, your opinions, the ones that you're able to rely on in tough times, the ones that accept you for who you are, and the ones that support you without judgment when you are growing as a person. Cut out the ones that don't make you feel very good about yourself, the ones that hold you back when you're trying to grow as a person, and the ones that just don't respect you. And the final point is to make time for yourself. I think it's very easy to be swept up by school life and then you fail to take some time to yourself. You fail to take some of that time to sit down and reflect. For hall in particular, you're constantly surrounded by stimulation. CCAs, supper, drinking sessions, hall events, friends just visiting your room for heart-to-heart talk sessions, just to name a few. As the semester goes by, this can all become very overwhelming, and it's not uncommon to see people lose their way and lose themselves. In my opinion, you need to take some time to reflect and do some introspection. You need to internalize what you're feeling, whether you're stressed, whether you're burnt out, and you also need to take the time to tackle internal issues that you might be facing, these little things that might be bothering you, and why you feel that way. Emotional intelligence is something that's important to develop as well, especially so in this stage of your life. Going through all of this reflection will eventually lead you to knowing yourself and knowing who you are. And I can't stress how important this is. Your identity, your values, what you look for in other people, your strengths, your flaws, your triggers, your direction, and your goal in life as well. It's better to do it now when you're not bogged down by adult responsibilities than when you hit your 20s and have a quarter-life crisis. So yeah, in conclusion, I personally think that you shouldn't have to worry so much about things like fitting in or whether the hall life will be too rowdy. Just remember to stick to your values and do what's comfortable for you. And if you're trying to do something that's outside of your comfort zone, make sure it's not entirely because of peer pressure to the point where it breaches your personal boundaries. And also, if you can, just avoid drama in hall because it's really pointless in the grand scheme of things. And all it really does is that it wastes your time and mental energy if you're someone that gets affected by gossip being about you. So yeah, that's it for my thoughts about hall. You can check out my college move-in video here where I moved into Shears Hall last year, and you can check out my college move-out video here where I moved out of Shears Hall for the final time in my academic life. Do leave a like and do subscribe to my channel. Catch you all in the next one.